Hello, everyone. We are John and Rachel with Gen 1 Image Bearers. We're going to do some commentary on a piece Rachel's just finished. I hope to give you a few laughs and get inside the mind of an artist. And Rachel, well, she is the artist. My better half, the wife.
Yes, definitely the wife. You're behind all the footage of everything.
Yeah,
I'll watch all of it.
I'll be behind the scenes. Rachel will be doing the hard work, taking all the credit from her, just like, real life. So.
Sadly, that's very true.
Yes.
And kind of annoying.
Yes. Yeah, so let's get through some of this. We started the year off with some color, and we'll show you what that's all about.
Okay, so in this video, I wanted to try and do a pour painting with stuff I had at home, and just like most of my artwork, doesn't always turn out the way I think it will, or at least something I think will be easy is never easy. So in my mind, I always have acrylic paint, so I thought I could just add water to the paint to thin it out, which is what I did, and most of it worked. But I'll go over how it came out and what went on during that process, what went wrong, what about it worked, what didn't. But right here, because I just went with a water-based paint by watering it down, I didn't want it to show through. So I first coated it before I poured a liquid barrier down, so that way it wouldn't have bare spots.
And that happens with like any of your paintings, really. Like if the color is like you try to get a base there.
I do put bases down for most paintings because it will make your paintings a lot sharper, because you won't ever have any white showing through. Like if you're gonna have a white painting, then you're fine, but any painting you do, that was a tip I found out a long time ago, and it makes a huge difference if you have a base coat color underneath whatever you're painting. It will come out way more vibrant and sharp that way. So here I'm just coating it on, and in this step I am using a medicine dropper to drip on the first color, which is white, because I just want it to like blend in with my base coat, which is the liquid tan and whatnot. One thing I did find out was it was blending more than I thought it would. Because in a lot of pour paintings I've seen or watched, it usually was more flowy and created swirls versus blending. And so later when I looked up why that was the case, it's like the black turning to gray, for example, instead of just making black swirls next to the white, that's because I added too much water. There's a ratio to the water and stuff if you're gonna do a water-based pour. But they do have other things you can add to your paint. It's a medium that you add to it that makes it flow, that doesn't also like thin out your paint. And that will be in the link if you want to have a starter kit for trying your own painting or your own pour painting. So, which makes it a lot easier because it's meant for that and it'll tell you the ratios. But when you do a water base, it will kind of go over there's a certain consistency you're looking for, and it's barely pourable. It's not supposed to be thin like water. I did not know that going into this. So that's why a lot of it's very blended.
Yeah, the ones I've seen, they look like sludge, but they move. Like they're still fluid, and they keep flowing. It's weird. They're like got this glass look.
Yeah, so with any of my artwork, that tends to happen most of the time, where I'm expecting one thing in something I'm trying and tend to get another. So I'm never sure what I'm going to do with it in that point. But part of art to me is transitioning with what you get, basically. Like, what are you going to do with the accidents? What are you going to do to change or fix the things that is unexpected? And sometimes a lot of my pieces, some of my favorite pieces are something I never intended them to be.
Yeah, but they're like
So,
really nice. You keep working with it until you get to a place where you actually enjoy it. And even though it wasn't like your original idea,
mhm.
it's really nice.
It's kind of cool because it forces you to be creative and, in a sense, flex your brain a bit. And so I would just suggest, as an artist, use it to, don't just discard it and try again. Try and use it as an opportunity to try something new and see how you can change it how you want. So here I kept adding more colors and I tried doing more splattering to see if that did anything different. And I was starting to get a bit more swirl to it. Still not the same thing as the other thing, but at this point I was pretty much like, okay, it's not going to look the same as other pour paintings,
Yeah,
so I'm just going to do my own thing now.
So this is blending more than you intended. Like the colors are starting to merge, and it's becoming, instead of like a hard black cut, it's like a gray fade. And so now it looks like you've picked up some black acrylic paint, and you're starting to add some more of the definition that you want.
Yeah, so now I'm adding just straight acrylic paint into this to try and add some breaks in the, almost like the fluid that's there, because it has a very swirly fluid and very pastel coloration. So I wanted to add a bit of a sharper tone with the veining. So I just used straight acrylic for that to kind of bring that in at first. Because now I'm just working with the paint with what I've got at this point, instead of trying to continue to blend it or blow it or, blend it around, because I'm just kind of seeing what I can create with, in a sense, the chaos I created.
Yeah.
To see where it goes.
You just splattered a bunch of paint on the canvas. I'm sure that's everyone's dream, that it actually turns out to something pretty. Like, are you scared about doing that? Because it feels like it can just go anywhere. Like, how do you control that? The splats.
Let's see.
Like, I feel like if I did it, I'd throw a blob on the canvas.
So with splattering, it works a lot better with more watery paint.
Okay.
Because one, it doesn't want to come off if it's thick paint. So it was pretty easy because I already had a lot of watery paint, because that's what I was working with. And something you should do is flick it against your hand. So like hit your paintbrush against your hand. So when it makes contact with your hand, it'll create a sudden movement with your paintbrush and it'll flick off and make a sudden like splat on your painting. Because there is a lot of times if you throw it, you're gonna get a splatter where it like is a line splatter. But if you hit it against your hand, that's usually where you get more of the dot splattering.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, if I had long hair, I imagine I would understand that better. But I can like see the line of like just forcefully throwing the paintbrush, and it'll create this harsh line in the center and keep dragging, versus like stopping it really fast.
That's the one where you just throw it and it creates a line.
Got it. Wow. I didn't even notice the difference between the black dots versus like some of the white lines there.
It's because when you hit it against your hand, it forces the bristles of the brush to go straight down, and it just throws dots down. Where the other one, it throws it like forward. And so then it's going to create this almost like straight pattern of splatter, which is why it creates the line.
Yeah. So actually, you've actually given it enough time at this point to dry.
Yeah, it's dried now, and so at this point, areas where I wish I had more vibrancy and stuff, because it was more pastel than I was expecting, I decided I would go in and just kind of do hand painting and see what I could do with it.
What were you not happy with that? Like, did you plan to do a lot of hand painting in the original?
No, I didn't originally plan to do, because normally pour paintings, you just pour them and you're done.
So you thought you'd be done like in 10 minutes?
Yes, but it took a lot longer because I decided to do hand painting because I wanted to bring more of the colors that I poured into it out, because a lot of it, you can see there's a lot of browns and grays because it did blend together. So now I'm trying to bring out in some of the areas where it turned gray, bring out some of the blacks where I would have liked the blacks, things like that. And some of the areas where it turned tan, bring out some of the pinks I threw in to bring some of the pink out, to just kind of add more to it, but also to change it up a bit. And something I've learned, at least in watching some pour painting videos, that cracking is not good in pour painting. It means your consistency is not good, which I got a lot of cracking, which also told me I used too much water, because I think it has to do with how fast it dries. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I'm assuming, because it seems like certain areas of the painting dried quicker than others, causing it to crack. And so quite a few pour painters I don't think like cracking. They don't like how that turns out, but I actually liked it.
Yeah.
I actually liked it. It gave it some different aspects to the painting, and I decided to use it. Which I will eventually, you'll see me paint here.
You'll get creative.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be like a happy little Bob Ross accident.
Yeah. But I decided to use the cracks to try and bring my metallic out, to use it more as like, to see it like something's underneath the paint, instead of thinking of it like I did it wrong. Use it more like it was intentional, which that helps a lot. When you make a mistake, try and make it look like it was intentional, and then it's less noticeable as a mistake, for one thing. So here you can see now I'm starting to add in the pinks.
And your goal here is to make it vibrant, because it's a little too toned down for your liking.
Yes, mainly because like the background is tan, and so I wanted the part that's flowing, to stand out against the background a bit. And because there was a lot of grays and tans, it wasn't doing that. So I wasn't against having tan in there, but there was a lot of tan in there. So I'm trying to bring some of the colors that I did initially put in there. I wanted more of that to show. So I just started putting it in there, and it was kind of fun just flowing it through there. Kind of felt like a paint by numbers a little bit.
Oh yeah, like when they have like a bunch of fives and you're supposed to paint those fives all the same color. And at the end you come up with a picture that you didn't realize you could do.
Yeah, because you can kind of look, when you're going through it and you're doing that, you can kind of see where the pink blended in a bit, but so you can fill it in, and you can see the motion too of where it was flowing. So when you're painting it, it comes out that way. So it's almost like you can see where it should have been, but it blended instead. So it's kind of fun. It's an opportunity to get creative, where you can choose, because you see where two colors come together. So it's like, okay, this is where it blended, so this is an opportunity to either go pink or go tan, or there's an opportunity to go white or go black, because that's where those two blended or something. And so it could have been a flow of white, or it could have been a flow of black, or vice versa.
Yeah, you and I have talked about like balance in the past, and you've helped me understand that better. Like when you're doing this piece that feels very chaotic, even, like, are you thinking about like how do you balance it or create a certain shape that feels a certain way? Like, what do you?
Yes, a big part of that is more like, so with balance, it's more like how much are you adding to something. So with the pink, I didn't want a ton of pink, which is why I mainly put the pink on the edges of the painting. So it's on the corners. It's not so much in the middle of the painting. And then with the black veining, that's more of like a focal point. So I put it more in the center, to draw interest towards the center of the painting. And then the white is more of just a balance to like tie it all together, in a sense.
Okay.
It's supposed to like highlight all the colors, but then the gold is an accent, And so, but with an accent, it's very easy to make an accent way too busy. So to remember with an accent, when you balance an accent, it's a lot better to use it for small details, and then whenever you have a big spot of an accent, just do it in a few places and spread it out across the canvas so it draws your eye throughout it instead of all in one spot.
Yeah, we've mentioned, like, I started with the balance, but I remember us using also the word weight. Like, it feels really heavy on one side versus another sometimes. And like adding a color or expanding a color kind of helps then balance it out.
Yes. And so a lot of times colors do have emotion, like brings emotions out in people. And so sometimes if something feels heavy, it could be the colors. And so sometimes you can look up what colors actually make you feel and stuff. And interior designers, which I do interior design, tend to utilize colors for that because it helps. Like there's certain colors that help in a bed, like there's colors you'd rather use in a bedroom versus in a living room, like because of that reason. Because some colors are relaxing, some are energetic, and it works in paintings as well. So if your painting is feeling too harsh or too strong, it might be the colors you're using. So if an area of your painting feels too dominant and too heavy, black can be a component of that. And so you might need to balance your black out instead of having it all on one side, blend it throughout your painting. And then it will be more of a stabilizer in your painting versus a dominating feature. Color is a very huge aspect in a lot of things actually, and it tells a story a lot of times, and a lot of people don't realize that. And so that's why sometimes when people feel like they don't like their piece, it can be as simple as your color's just in the wrong spot. So
I'm enjoying it.
So yeah, sometimes changing a piece can very easily be, if you have a piece, like you may not like a color, like you might have decided to put a color in, you're like, okay, this color doesn't go the way I thought it would. And so you might just change out the color and it makes a big difference. Because I've had pieces that have done that to me where I thought I knew what I was getting into and it was not what.
Yeah, like
not at all what I pictured.
A situation that comes up that I remember you doing was like putting a ceramic piece in the kiln, and you're using certain types of like, what are they called, stains or glazes? They're called
they're glazes. And me and another student mixed up our spray cans, and we both didn't realize it until after we sprayed it on our pieces. So mine was supposed to be white. I had no idea what his was, so it basically turned into, well, we'll find out what color it is when it comes out, and it definitely changed mine to a very big extent because I was making a lantern and I wanted white on the inside so it would glow and light up. It turned out dark purple. That's the color he had. And so my lantern was red on the outside and dark purple on the inside.
Yeah, I mean, like
it was interesting.
Yeah, your teacher loved it.
Yeah, my teacher actually really liked it, but for what I was trying to go for, that was one piece where I was like, Some accidents I like, but that was one where I'm like, I really wish it turned out white. Just because it felt very heavy with having a very cranberry red on the outside and a very dark maroon purple almost.
That was a happy accident.
But yeah, that's a very good example of that. So
we're on the theme of colors, and it makes me ask you, like, why choose these colors? Did you have something already in mind of where this would be? And why pick the tan as the base? Why not do, like, I don't know, a fun, vibrant color? Because that seems more like a soothing color. And
well, for example, something I do a lot with my art pieces is I'll paint anything, but then I usually sell it if that's the case. But something I do a lot is with an initial thing in mind, whether it's for a client and they're specifically asking for something, or if it's this currently it's for our house. So because I mentioned I do interior design, our house is designed. So this I was painting specifically to go somewhere as a design piece in our master bedroom. So a lot of times when I make artwork, it's with an intention to tie in something else I'm making.
Mhm.
And so this is the color scheme that's in our current master bedroom that we are gradually been working to put together over the last 2 years. So, and this is the color scheme we're doing, because we went from a black, this is a color thing. We went from black, gray, and white, which is actually very heavy and cold. It kind of gives you that, it's very sleek, but it's definitely a more colder feel, and it's darker and dingier.
And everyone knows black makes you feel like look skinny, and all of our furniture looks skinny
Mhm.
even though it's bulky.
Yeah. So now we're swapping to a much lighter, like light furniture, to tans, lots of like furs, linens. It's more glam for like a romantic chic glam kind of feel with, and then slight touches of pinks. There's not a lot of pinks in there. It's mainly nude tones. Because it's warmer and more inviting and a lot more, it's like kind of gives you a cozy feel, because in a bedroom, that's more what you want to feel in a bedroom when you're trying to go to sleep.
Yeah, nude and romantic.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's where I was going with that, you weirdo.
Yeah. So like you had the bigger picture of fitting these colors into the theme of the bedroom that you've been working on for a couple years now. Slow is still steady, and you implement things as you can, not where it's pushing you too much. It's taken a while, right? But you've created a lot of pieces in our master bedroom that look really awesome all together. So you have this like cohesive feeling, and they've been tying things in together. You've been very frugal about that. This is actually getting to the point where you say we just passed a little bit of the crack filling that you were talking about.
Yeah.
There's still more to do, it looks like.
Mhm.
I'm thinking, but
Because here with the accent, I'm mainly sharpening a lot of it, because a lot of it like almost got washed out, like because it was a gold ink I used, and so because of the water and the other paints, it kind of wiped away the gold a bit, and so it was almost like a sheer gold, and so I'm trying to fill that back in to like more of a solid gold. And then in the process of doing that, I went in and filled those cracks, like I mentioned before, with the gold, to bring some of the gold over to that left side of the painting, but do it without it being over the top, because the gold's more in these splattering sides, but then there's a subtle hint of it over in those cracks.
I wanted to ask, this was your first pour painting. Like, why choose this to fill a certain space that you were thinking of? Like, this is your first one. Like, why this?
That's actually something I can answer. Well, because where it was going is, and it also has to do with design. A lot of my things, like, I like to tie in together, because if you think about it, if you're going to spend time on an art piece, you want to hang it, right? But for me, because my house is also my art piece, whatever I'm hanging, I want it not to mess with that art piece. So I recently did a different art piece that is also in the room, and that one's more literal, it's a one-line drawing of my husband and I, and having a couple, like having two paintings or two art pieces next to each other that are literal is an example of unbalancing, because it's a lot to put on in one spot. So that's the sense of balancing in the sense of interior design. So for this, I had a literal, what do you call it? Realistic art piece in there. So if I was going to put another art piece there, I wanted a more abstract art piece. So that way they each told their own story without distracting from one another. But yet their colors and everything still matched each other to be able to be cohesive. And so that was why I went with something like this, because I knew I was going to do something abstract. So then I thought about maybe I'll try a pour painting, because I have things in the house, because that's something I try and think about is sometimes we don't always have money to just go out and buy everything. And I was like, well, I have acrylic paint. I could probably water it down and make this. It definitely showed me it's not that simple, but it was an attempt, and I do like how the results came out in the end, and it worked out. It may not be exactly like most pour paintings turn out, but it did turn out in a way that I enjoyed.
Yeah, it really did come out great. I don't think we've ever been in a place where we could afford everything.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it makes things more interesting.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, we're gonna repurpose this one thing over here.
Yeah. So I put a sealer on, because a lot of pour paintings have they're thick enough and are glossy. Like the medium you pour into the paint is like a high gloss pour stuff. So it makes the paint do it for you. Well, mine wasn't, so mine was all matte and everything. So I put a high gloss sealer on it to give it more of that fluid look when I was done. And then after that dried, I went in and added another accent on top that's different. I went and added some glitter in there to just make it pop a bit more. And I'm a person who loves glam. I love glitter, love diamonds, all that kind of stuff. Some people, that makes them cringe. But as someone who loves glitter and diamonds, there's other people out there like that, so they can probably understand. You have to make sure you can balance that as well. It can be very easy to go over the top with glitter.
Yeah, you don't want to be a purple person.
Oh yeah.
It's like someone who absolutely loves purple, and everyone knows that you love purple.
Because everything's purple. Yeah, that's true. So it's very easy to want to cover everything in glitter, but it's a balancing thing. So I tried to just accent the black veining and stuff with some black glitter, and then the gold, I threw in some glitter to bring out some, because you could see the metallic behind the glitter, but then it also, so by the time I was done, it kind of almost gave the black, it made it look like stone a bit, and the gold. So it was kind of neat when it was finished. But then that way it wasn't like, oh, your entire pour is covered in glitter. Now, of course, I'm someone who would love that, but
yeah,
that's too much.
Glitter goes a long way for a long time. I'm pretty sure we still have glitter hanging around the house from our child's first birthday party.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
well, it was confetti, but it's like a gold confetti that never ends.
Yeah, it's like a gift that keeps on giving, glitter.
And something else I think about too is part of interior design is remembering my husband lives here as well. So it's like, okay, I can't just.
That, yeah.
Some of it's like, okay, I gotta not glam everything up because you also are here, so you gotta have some of your stuff as well. So incorporating the things you like and the things that you want and stuff, so having your opinions in the pieces that I make are important.
Did you know that when you were doing the black veining, you were going to be putting some kind of glitter on top of that? Or did you just kind of like, oh, I have this, let's put that on there?
I knew I wanted to incorporate some type of glitter just because we have some glam in the room, so I knew I wanted to tie that in somewhere. I didn't know how I was going to do it yet.
Okay.
I just didn't know where, and then once I started filling in the darker colors, I started noticing that would be a good place, because it would be a subtle place to add it.
Yeah.
And because I didn't want it to be necessarily everywhere, because I knew that, because again, it doesn't need to be all over our room. But I do like the pieces to have some of the glam in there, like hints of it to tie it in. But so I liked the idea of using it more in the accent colors a bit, which is more like the gold and the black veining and stuff.
I love how the gold went on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like the gold. The black makes it cool. The gold.
Yeah, black and gold are a really fun combination when put together. It's like a vintage 20s thing.
Oh yeah. We did a vintage costume thing not a couple years ago.
Yeah.
What was the theme of that? Like 40s?
No,
50s?
it was the Roaring 20s.
Roaring 20s. Yeah. Okay. So it fit what you're talking about here. Because I am very familiar with time. I would not confuse the 50s with the 20s at all.
Yeah, it was for your grandma's 90th birthday.
Yeah.
So yeah, something that is a tip is if you have loose glitter, you can either lay glue down and pour it on top, which that's a very messy way to do it, or you can get a high gloss sealer and mix it into your glitter, and it basically becomes a glitter glue that you can just paint right on, and you can keep stacking it on top of itself to create a thicker version of the glitter. So if it's like, you can either lay a thin coat of glitter or you can keep adhering it on top of each other and it'll get thicker and thicker. And that is a less messy way to do it because it's literally all coated in the sealer, so it won't go anywhere. It will stick to everything, so you won't have loose glitter falling everywhere.
What kind of sealer did you say?
A high gloss sealer.
Okay. Why? Like.
The reason why is if you use an actual glue or anything matte, it will make the glitter not be glitter
It'll
anymore.
dull it off, yeah.
Yep, it'll basically make it look horrible. It won't look like glitter anymore. So yeah, this is the finished result.
And this is where it is.
Yep, and that's the picture I mentioned, where if I were to do like because remember originally I thought about doing 2-line drawings, and then I'm like, now that I'm seeing it in the space, that's going to be very busy.
Yeah, those aren't realistic. Those are, you said literal or?
Well, they're both like literal, realistic drawings. It's because like it's got a real image in it, where this is abstract. There's not like, it's like you can actually see people in that. This is an abstract painting.
I see. Even though the style of it is like not realistic, it's still got real life things in it. Okay.
Yeah, because the one line makes it somewhat abstract, but it's not abstract in the sense like you can see what it is. Like.
No, this came out great. I really love it.
So, and then you can kind of see with the white furniture, you can see like the more nude tones that apparently.
They're romantic.
Anyway, the pinks and the skin tones. I'm gonna start saying skin tones.
Skin tones.
You're gonna turn that into something. Anyway, but yeah, with lots of like greenery and everything. So yeah. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, I hope to do more. This was fun.
Yeah. And God bless.
Love you all.
Stay tuned.